All right, everyone. Welcome to today's After Church Tea Time. We are speaking on the sermon by Madhu on the divine mind. It was a great sermon, really talking about the power of our mind and the way that it can really set us free and we can experience more growth, more God, and also the ways that we can find that our mind limits us. So it's a really important subject, I feel. My name is Shaleia, and I have with me Alberto and Manuela and Danielle and Carmen that are here to share a little bit about their thoughts and feelings on the service. What did you guys get from the sermon today?
Yeah, so for me, it just once more the importance of how powerful this work is and that you can hear literally anything. And yeah, basically that, we don't control things with our minds, but when we are coming into peace, that we can create from that space. And it actually also reminded me of a reel that Jeff shared once. It was about that we are more like, we need to understand that we are more like antennas and that we have, when we receive thoughts, we receive them. It's not that we create them, but they are there and we might pick them up from, the collective basically. And I feel that for me personally was really helpful to understand like, oh my God, I'm not this thought, like this intrusive thought, or, sometimes these are really random things. I think we all might have had them. Like, as an example, you are standing on a train station and you're just like, oh, I could just hop here now, like on the tracks, and you're like, okay, what the heck, where is this coming from? There's no desire at all to kill myself, right? And then you kind of just stop identifying with that and yeah, basically make a new choice and choose to live, right? Like you, and Madhu was also talking a lot about MAP and healing the trauma, and that this is like really crucial so you can actually let go of these thoughts. And something I'm always learning, like really more and more, it's not only about setting boundaries with these thoughts, right? Being aware of them, pick them up when you have them, not attached to them, but then also like, okay, what do I choose instead here? Because something I kind of like always tended to do was like, I say no to this, but then I forget about this and focus on something else instead of like you create this space then within yourself that like is empty and you have the opportunity to get something in that space. And so you need to choose to what you want instead in that place. Otherwise, when you just say no and you focus on something else, the old creeps in again. And so like really focusing and imagining and visioning like what you really want here. And yeah, that was really key for me to heal intrusive thoughts and yeah, going deeper with that. You have something too?
Yeah, for me, it's like what you have in your mind or within you is what you align with, right? And let's say, for example, you have like this belief of like money is hard to get or relationships are painful. That's what your mind aligns with, and you unconsciously or subconsciously encounter situations where you find some like a person who is treats you bad, right? And then this belief of relationships are painful gets reinforced and get reinforced and reinforced again until you become aware of that and change it. And this is what the mirror exercise is so good at. Like you can become aware of something, reflect it, and then change it within. Because once within yourself have some other belief, like my relationship with myself is great, then this belief is changing and you cannot encounter something different from that because now your mind is aligned with this feeling of relationship are great because my relationship with myself is great. So you cannot experience something different, right? So yeah, this again for me like proves how important it is to take care of ourselves. And this reminds me of a class where Jeff talks about like what you feed your mind is what you have within, right?
Mm.
And so it's important that in order to keep a healthy mind, mindset, vibration, and beliefs, is that you feed yourself only things that nurture your mind and also your desire to remain in peace. Something I haven't done in years is watching news. I don't watch news anymore because at some point for me it was like they only shared like wars and murders and bad news and things, awful things. And at some point for me it was like I want to be happy today. And the first thing I saw today was that someone was fighting someone else, and I already feel like, So I stopped watching news.
Mhm.
And now what I watch is like Tifa's classes and LPC because they are aligned with this desire of me to have a more harmonious life and detach myself from all this pain in the world. So yeah, for me, like this is very important. It's all about like taking care of our minds, our mindset, beliefs, especially beliefs is something that I have worked a lot, and they are like, at least for me, like easy to change. Sometimes I'm like, this is so hard to do.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, well, why is it so hard? Maybe it's just because of the expectation I having of myself. Okay, now I let go of that and it becomes easier. So it's just about that, taking care of yourself and loving yourself through all these steps so you can remain in this place of alignment.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a huge part of the journey is to be disciplined with the mind and to be aware of it because it has so much power over us. Like I know for myself, I just started getting health and wellness sessions from the mind alignment process, which are incredible. Needed it so bad. It was so good. But I found that I had these limiting beliefs and what I was focusing on, I was giving a lot of energy to that wasn't helping me. And so like just like shining a light on your thought patterns is so huge. And just like you shared, like really paying attention to what are you taking in? Like what are you putting energy behind? Like what are you fueling in your mind? And that really allows us to be able to heal and move forward, you know? It makes a big difference, I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really love the sermon too. Like I like what Madhu shared about like he was saying that instead of trying to like work against the way your brain is wired, like understanding how it actually works and then like accommodating yourself to that and being able to understand like what's going on in your mind and how it's working. Because I know that was like a big healing for me. Because like, I have OCD, right? So like I had to like understand like I didn't know that I had OCD until like like a year ago or 2 years ago. So like my whole life I had OCD and I was like, oh God, whatever. But then now that I realize I do have that, I'm able to be like, oh, okay, like this is just OCD, It's not necessarily like an upset or a block, it's just my brain doing what it does. So yeah, that was just like I feel like exploring your mental health and the way your brain works is extremely like healing and it'll put a lot of maybe upsets or blocks into perspective once you're able to understand your brain.
Yeah.
And I feel like um yeah, like something that Madhu was saying was that like eventually like these things kind of like you manifested certain things for a reason like people who are like autistic or they have bipolar disorder or whatever all those types of things like you manifested that for a reason and it's not necessarily like I remember Jeff sharing like you can't like heal certain things like autism or whatever or stuff like that and yeah so I think like if you learn how your brain works and you can like use certain things to your benefit so yeah that's what I had to share. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really accepting yourself, and like where you're at and realizing that we're divine, and our experiences serve a purpose. And yeah, I feel like one thing that I love about this community is that we have both areas of address, really like the emotional component and also the mental component in terms of looking at everything with logic, right? Like stepping back and like really being willing to go places. Because I don't know if you guys can relate, but like I've had things where like I pushed it into the unconscious so far. And it's like the mind just has this way of like, if you don't want to go somewhere, like you can really have these huge upsets with yourself and like really cause turmoil. And so, yeah, I loved that part. I'm glad that Madhu shared about that too, because I feel like we've all got different things. Like, even if we don't have, like ADHD or autism or bipolar or whatever it may be, like OCD. We've all got like little things like habits of thought, patterns in our mind, different ways of seeing things. A lot of it has to do with programming, like Madhu talked a lot about his childhood and the influence of that. And it's so important, I feel, to accept ourselves where we're at, because then we can actually love ourselves there and move forward. And we're not an enemy to ourselves. I feel like that's super important. When it comes to the mind, I feel like there's a temptation there sometimes to feel like we're kind of like gridlocked and we get, some resistance to that.
Yeah, definitely. Something I like over the years developed with my mind is that my mind is always like working, thinking something, imagining something. Like I'm always in like this creative mode. Like, what can I do next? What can I draw or whatever? But there are some times where I feel like my mind is like too much into that, and I feel it more like a pot and just with steam in it. And what I have found helpful for myself that I was sharing with Carmen one day is that sometimes when I feel like that, my mind, I just imagine I have like a switch here and I just like turn it off and I feel like I'm a little more like relaxed and kind of like in slow mode. Or sometimes I imagine like I have a lid on my head and I take it off and all the steam goes out. And this really does help me like release all like get into more of a relaxing moment and chill and not be thinking all the time or like imagine stuff to create. Like sometimes you also need to chill so you can perform better. And yeah, this was actually like a very big deal for me back then when I was in college because I was always studying and thinking about my next exam or something. And in that moment, it was playing against me because I was always so anxious and so afraid. And what's the next topic? But once I found a way to use this to my advantage, I realized that I was able to learn and study more in a very little time and have more time to relax and be more freedom. So I think it's all about learning about ourselves and how we can use maybe like a well unhealthy patterns into healthy patterns that support us and make them something that help us become stronger and not like something against us.
Yeah, plus like I feel the mind is like a great supporter, right? I mean, in the end it's very innocent because what I notice from my mind is basically like it tries to keep me safe. And I think that's for all of us, right? In some way, it's just like rewiring what the safety actually means. And do you really have to look for everything? Like we are not living in medieval ages or like in the Stone Age where there is a predator somewhere, right? You just like the mind is always looking for ways like how to keep you safe. Like, be cautious there. This could like cut you, or this could happen, or that could happen. Like, nah, you just learn like, hey, it's a completely different era. We are safe here, and just imagining that, right? In the meditation CD, Jeff and Shaleia also say like imagination is energy, and this is what it creates, and this is how powerful it is. Basically, just your imagination. And something I also wanted to add to autism, like we are still exploring. Like, I mean, I'm for sure on the spectrum. That's like clear as heck, and something Chrissy shared with me, and it really helps me as well, like understand my mind and and heal this better, is to know like autism basically comes from at the core from the need of to control something, and control comes from fear. And so that was really like, oh, I don't know. For me, that was really interesting to understand a few things better and to also heal like my upsets with it, right? Because in the end, it's just like two like neurodivergency and neurotypical is basically like two different like software systems like Apple and Android. None of them is better than the other. They just work different. And I think it's like a super cool thing to also complement the both, bring them together because each brings their own perspective into that. And when I notice that when I see people, in a lot of forums where people share about their autism, and I do relate, but I most of the times feel also like most people, they are really upset that they are so sensitive. They really hate that. And I totally get that, right? No one wants to have a meltdown. It feels really like crap. And you cannot prevent that, but you can really find ways to support yourself in that, right? Like something we also learn when we go to the supermarket, like never again without noise canceling headphones, never again with a cap. Next time I will wear my glasses, no matter how bitchy the people will look at me like, oh my God, she's wearing glasses in the supermarket. She thinks she's cool. Like, okay, what the heck, I don't mind because that's going to support me. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of fun, right? But yeah. Um, yeah, so I feel, the mind tries to partner with you and we just have to find like the perfect alignment. And there's something else I wanted to share. It's something also once in a coaching session came up and it completely blew my mind is that when you have these upsetting thoughts sometimes and you don't know, you have nothing to pinpoint it to, you cannot pinpoint to person X is making me upset because of that to do step one of the mirror exercise. You can actually do step one to your thoughts, like I'm upset at my thoughts because they're constantly they're always looking for something to make me feel bad. And in that moment, I was like, oh my God, that was so helpful. And to realize that, right? Like, oh, you can point it to that too. And stop also in that moment identifying with your thoughts. Like, yeah, that I don't know. I'm still doing that whenever I notice that and I feel like really good about it. And yeah, that's it.
I feel like that's really key, like upsets. It's like having your upsets with your upsets, right? When you're like healing something and then you're mad that you're still healing that thing, or like you're, upset that you even have this problem in the first place, or whatever it may be, right? It's like that, but with the mind. It's true. We do kind of have a relationship with our mind, and feelings can come up about it. I feel like that's a really good point as well, because that too can keep us kind of stuck, is like that resistance to it. But yeah, I think about the teachings of union as well, with how, it's described as like our mind, using that program example, that the computer is perfect. It's just the programming that needs to be looked at, right? And it's that innocence that you were describing. And it's true. We are divine. We don't have a part of ourselves, as we are, that is trying to harm us, that is against us in some way. A Course in Miracles talks about this with like guilt, the illusion of guilt, and how like it's based on the belief that a part of God could separate from him, turn around and attack him. And it's not really a thing. God wouldn't do that. So we are safe to be with our mind, and to feel that safety in our relationship with ourself is ultimately what it's about. I feel it's super important. And it's safe to explore that programming. It doesn't mean anything about us. It's not personal in that sense. And yeah, it's just part of the journey. And we can all relate. We've all got our own stuff in our programming that we're looking at. So if you've got something, those who are listening, that you're working through, that you're noticing in your mind, you're certainly not alone. Everybody's got different things that they're working out, and a lot of compassion for yourself while you go through that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like what Carmen shared about you can mirror exercise like your thoughts. And I'm like, oh, like I didn't realize, oh, like I'm probably gonna start doing that, mirror exercising upsets that I have with my thoughts. So that's a good insight. But yeah, like we aren't like our thoughts, and I feel like I think another good thing to put into perspective is that we're being taught how to align to the divine mind. That's what Jeff and Julia teach us. Like they do I mean they do have a healed divine mind, and that's what they teach us. So I think also putting that into perspective, that we're on the spiritual journey to heal stuff, so there's no reason to be upset when stuff comes up to be healed, especially like the really upsetting things that come up to be healed, because like you're being like shaped like a diamond, like that's what you know we're told, like diamonds are put under pressure, you know what I'm saying, to be created or whatever. It's like a thing, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, like just like putting it into perspective, and going through your upheaval process, your upset process, but then realizing, hey, this isn't me. This is just leaving me because I'm aligning to deeper divinity and I'm going deeper into my divine self. So this is a good thing, So just changing that perspective, I think, is nice. Like understanding like the purpose of why we're here is to literally purify ourselves. So we're going to go through a purification process that feels bad sometimes, and like it's okay. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel there's also like a lot of things that are like in the collective consciousness, like the collective mind, and like there's something to that, I feel. Like just different things that are like in the world, different fears that a lot of us hold collectively that manifest in different ways. And so again, it's just like really being able to like, or choosing to not judge ourselves and to realize like when a thought form comes up, it doesn't mean something that you're choosing that and this is what you are, like you are this illusion or whatever it may be. Um, yeah, it's really safe to explore the mind. And shining a light on it is usually all we really have to do is like bring that logic in and just look at it and choose to accept and bring love there. So, yeah, it's really nice. Cool. Do you guys have any other thoughts right now? I want to go check and see if we have any comments. Anything else you guys want to share?
Yeah, yeah, definitely like explore our minds and where does these beliefs come from. For example, there was a time where it was very hard for me to have friends. Like I was a very lonely guy in high school. And one day, a guy approached me and he wanted to be my friend, and I felt very angry, like that he got close to me, and I was like, he went away, and I was like, hey, why am I so upset about this? It's like, doesn't make sense. He was very friendly. And I questioned that thought in that moment. And I found like it doesn't actually upset me. It upsets my family beliefs about this relationship, friendship, and how it's supposed to look. And I was just like, well, maybe I will just give myself the opportunity to experience like my own version of friendship. And after that, I made a lot of good friends. And that moment was for me like mind opening, like, oh, this belief or like aligning with my family's idea of friendship was kind of like blocking me of having friends. And now that I allow myself to have friends, I have a lot of friends actually, and I'm going to parties and stuff. And so it can be as simple and easy as that. Like, why is this thing upsetting me? Like, where does it come from? Is from this experience, because I found myself internalizing a lot of other people's stuff and upsets. Like someone else had a bad day and they say like life is awful, and then I internalize like, oh my god, life is awful just because he said that. But then I was like, well, why is awful, bro? Like it's just life. Maybe you didn't feel like it that day, but that doesn't mean like the rest of the life is awful. It was just like a bitter drink or something.
Bitter pill.
Yeah, something like that. So it
Mm.
can be as easy as that. Like, don't internalize other people's stuff.
Yeah, you brought up a good thing. It's something we noticed in our healing that it's mostly, of course, a lot about our childhood, what we learned there, and taking on our parents' beliefs, right? Because we start to see more and more our innocence in all the things. For example, like, these stupid things I was telling him the other day, like, oh my God, he started to treat me just a little cold, and it was like nothing, and I was feeling like super like, oh my God, that hit me so hard because I was so happy. I was like a little dog around him, like, and and he was like, go away. And I felt like, that reminded me of a time when I was like feeling innocently happy for no reason. And I was showing that with my mom, and my mom was always this grumpy, woman who didn't want to do anything with people that were happy. That was even like worse. But this day I was like, I don't care. And I asked her something, and she just reacted like very like, like this typical thing. And I felt like super hurt in that moment. And then I thought like, okay, it's better to also be, pissed and hate life, and then everything is okay. And I don't know, just this tiny moment reminded me of that, and realizing in our healing, like, oh Jesus, we're just taking on things from our parents and we're just letting it go, right? Because we are not only healing our own stuff, but it's like this generational trauma, you say, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was very fun because I was just sending a message, but she was like holding me and I couldn't type and touch the button. I was like, so I told her like, Carmen, stop. But I didn't shout at her. It was just like, stop. And I sent the message and I was like, okay, continue. And she was just
Yeah.
little things that happen.
Healing can be fun.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had something similar happen. It was like a generational thing where like the women in my family have certain patterns of like how they handle challenges and how they do relationships and things like that. And I was noticing that in myself and I was like, really, it's like a great case study, our family of origin, You really get to see how these patterns play out. And like as you're looking at it within yourself, you're like, wait, like I don't want to get those results. Like maybe I want to do something different. And so I think that that's also really cool is how like God sets us up in like the perfect situation to give us that contrast. And it's kind of a blessing in the sense of like you get this really intimate perspective on how these patterns play out. And then you get to decide for yourself. You get to claim your power back and be like, maybe I want to, take this from it. Maybe I want to let go of this part of it. Like just getting clear on what you desire for your life. And yeah, that's huge. We've all got some programming, that's for sure. Yeah, it's good stuff. Awesome.
I
Yeah.
think at the core or the close, healing doesn't have to be painful or hard, because I think a lot of times I resist because I am afraid of like feeling pain or suffering again about something. But for example, today in the morning during breakfast, I was like, "Hey, we need to talk about something like our schedule." It was just about our schedule and me just basically speaking my needs. And I told her, and she was like, "Okay." But I was feeling very anxious because every time I spoke my needs, people got very upset at me and they were like, doing things or like being very mean with me. And I was telling her, like, I just spoke my needs to you, and I really feel like this is the end of the world. Like, for real, I'm expecting you to be very upset at me and ignore me the rest of the day. And she was like, no, no, let's let's keep talking and how you feel about that. And yeah, it was light, it was easy, and it was quick. It didn't took us more than 10 minutes or something. It was cool. And after that, I was like, oh, nothing happened. So healing can be easy and light and sometimes fun, even like
Mhm.
it can be fun too.
Yeah, right. As they say, as Jeff and Shaleia say, like you have to go to back to these places that feel really hurt, but this time you go there with love, and the outcome will be completely different. And it doesn't mean that we will have to endeavor the same disaster that we had to experience back then, right? It comes up differently, and just these tiny things can bring up this feeling, which is perfect. And we can choose with God to partner and make it as quick but also as compassionate as possible. That's a very like important choice we came to realize. And yeah, can be fun and easy and light.
Mm.
Absolutely. It does not have to be hard. Don't have to be about the drama. Um, and I feel too, like as you practice the teachings of union, as you focus on spirituality, self-reflection, things like that, you're able to catch things a bit quicker, because you're already looking, you're already being like mindful in a way, you're noticing like, oh, every time my twin flame does this, I have this thought, or I jump to this conclusion, or oh, like, and even our twin flames are really great at pointing that out to us because they're so sensitive to what we're doing. They know what we're doing. So it's really helpful to have that. That's one of the big benefits of this journey is that you've got so much feedback, you've got so much mirroring and reflection around you, even through your community, through people, your friendships, your close relationships. And it's just being willing to go there. And it's not scary. It's really safe. Again, it's just programming. It's just thought patterns. It's not personal. And so we're able to just kind of live life and take in the data, so to speak, and be like, this is working, this isn't. And it doesn't have to be drama. You're right. It doesn't have to be some big crisis. And being able to really love yourself and kind of like build up that muscle and that choice to love yourself no matter what is presented, it allows you to really have a compassionate experience because you're willing to love when things come up. And that's the important part. Yeah. Good. Awesome. Well, we're kind of winding down here. I want to see if there are any final thoughts, anything else that you guys want to share while we're here. You guys feeling complete?
Yes, I think just from my side, to always remember that you have power over your feelings, emotions, thoughts. Even if the biggest of the biggest challenges come, you can always choose how to approach them. And of course, always choose to Love yourself so you can approach them from a place of peace.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for the great discussion. This is an important subject. This is like a big part of the healing journey. This is something that comes up for every single person. And so I'm glad that we were able to kind of have a good discussion on our experiences with it. Hopefully, it's helpful to those who are watching to know that they're not alone and to know that everything can be healed. A great sermon from Madhu. I appreciate everybody who's joining us. And if you would like to support the Church of Union and sharing this message of love and self-acceptance and healing with the world, you can check out unionism.org. You're welcome to tithe or donate there. All of that goes toward sharing this with more people. We found in this community that we've all personally, I feel like I can speak for all of us, that we've experienced tremendous growth and healing with this, and just learning how to have a healthy relationship with ourselves is just so foundational in our lives. And so, yeah, if you would like to support that, definitely check out unionism.org. Thank you guys again for the great discussion, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks. Bye.